Bruce's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. The court's logic is seductive because it's partially valid. Gotham's rogues gallery does exploit the justice system. Arkham's revolving door is a legitimate failure of institutional infrastructure. And yes, permanent solutions would save lives in the short term. But the moment I decide my judgment supersedes the judicial system, I become the threat I'm fighting. Bruce's voice carried weight of years grappling with this exact dilemma. The court thinks they're protecting Gotham through selective assassination. They're actually protecting their power structure by eliminating anyone who threatens it. Same actions, different justification. But the result is oligarchs murdering citizens while calling it necessary. And if you killed Joker? Gojo pressed, curious about Batman's ethical framework. Saved thousands of future victims. How is that different from killing curses in my world? Because Joker is human. He has human consciousness, human agency, human rights regardless of his crimes. Bruce met Gojo's gaze evenly. I've come close. God knows I've been tempted after every major incident. But the line between justice and vengeance, between protection and tyranny, is whether we treat even monsters with the dignity of due process. Kill Joker without trial. I'm just another vigilante deciding who deserves life. That's not justice. It's my anger wearing a hero's mask. The honesty was striking. Bruce Wayne didn't hide behind rationalizations or comfortable distance. He acknowledged the temptation, the logical arguments, the lives that might be saved. He just refused to cross the line anyway. Your friend, Bruce said, shifting topics with detective's precision. The one who fell to that logic. What happened? Gojo set down his coffee, six eyes momentarily unfocusing as memories surfaced. Suguru Geto, strongest sorcerer besides me, my best friend in high school. We fought curses together, protected people, thought we were doing good work. He paused, old grief settling in his chest. Then he saw too much darkness. Non-sorcerers weaponizing cursed spirits. Civilians getting sorcerers killed through ignorance and prejudice. He started asking why we protected people who couldn't even see the threats we fought. And he decided the solution was eliminating non-sorcerers entirely. Create a world only for jujitsu practitioners, where everyone could see curses and defend themselves. Started killing civilians by the hundreds. Justified it as necessary evolution. Gojo's voice hardened. I had to execute him eventually. Best friend became greatest threat because he thought his power and understanding justified genocide. Bruce was silent for a moment, processing. The court tried using that exact argument your friend's fall to suggest you'd inevitably reach the same conclusion about Gotham's criminals. I know. Eleanor was smart. Hit every psychological pressure point. Gojo met Bruce's eyes. But the difference is I watched Geto fall. Saw exactly where that logic leads when you decide your strength. Justifies deciding who deserves life. I won't make his mistake, Bruce. I can't. Good. Bruce stood, gesturing for Gojo to follow. Then let's make sure you have the training to maintain that principle even when Gotham pushes you toward easier solutions. They descended into the manor's lower levels, hidden elevator behind a grandfather clock. Classic Wayne family drama. Six eyes noted with amusement. Down through rock carved with precision that suggested advanced engineering. The Batcave opened before them like underground. Cathedral dedicated to vigilante justice. Gojo's six eyes widened behind his blindfold. The cave was massive. Natural cavern expanded through strategic excavation. Filled with enough technology to outfit a small nation's intelligence agency. Computer systems that would make Oracle jealous dominated one area. Vehicle Bay held multiple variations of the Batmobile plus other specialized craft. Training area featured equipment that ranged from basic gymnastics to what looked like metahuman combat simulation. And everywhere, trophies from past cases, a giant penny, an animatronic T-Rex, countless artifacts that probably had their own Wikipedia entries. Welcome to the Batcave, Bruce said with just a hint of dramatic pride. This is where Gotham's heroes train, plan, and prepare for the impossible. It's… Gojo searched for appropriate words. Compensating for something. Bruce's expression remained deadpan. Alfred says the same thing. Regularly. Because it's true, Master Bruce. Alfred called from somewhere in the cave's depths, apparently monitoring their descent. One dinosaur is eccentric. An entire trophy collection suggests issues. The trophies serve tactical purpose, Bruce defended, leading Gojo toward the training area. They remind me of past victories and failures. Maintain combat readiness through visual reinforcement of stakes. He paused. And yes, the dinosaur was a gift from a case. It's nostalgic. Gojo grinned. Behind the tactical genius and paranoid planning, Bruce Wayne was still human enough to keep a robotic dinosaur for sentimental reasons. The training area featured a raised platform marked with sensors and holographic projectors. Bruce activated the system, and suddenly they stood in a recreation of Gotham's streets. Perfect detail, populated with civilians going about their business. Your power makes you nearly invincible in direct combat, Bruce began, adopting what was clearly teaching mode. But Gotham doesn't fight fair. The real threats aren't the ones you can punch. They're psychological warfare, ethical dilemmas, and situations where raw power creates more problems than it solves. The hologram shifted, displaying a scenario. Masked gunman holding a civilian hostage. Finger on the trigger, clearly. Unstable. Standard hostage situation, Bruce narrated. Your infinity makes you immune to his weapon. Your speed lets you neutralize him before he can react. Your spatial manipulation could pull the hostage to safety instantly. What do? Disarm him, secure the hostage. Incapacitate the gunman without killing him. Gojo answered immediately. The hologram played out his suggested solution, but when Gojo's simulated self grabbed the gunman, the hostage screamed and collapsed. Six Eyes tracked the cause. The gunman had a dead man's switch wired to the hostage's explosive vest. Neutralizing the gunman triggered the detonation. Gotham's criminals use contingencies, Bruce explained as the simulation reset. They know heroes will try non-lethal solutions, so they design scenarios where restraint kills innocence. The court's argument that permanent solutions prevent future complications becomes tempting when every arrest risks triggering backup plans. So what's the actual solution? Gojo studied the simulation, Six Eyes analyzing variables. Intelligence gathering before engagement. The dead man's switch has electromagnetic signature. That computer can detect and jam it. Oracle's network can identify the bomber's psychological profile and predict his response to intervention. Nightwing's trained in hostage negotiation and might talk him down without violence. Bruce met Gojo's eyes. You're powerful enough to handle this solo. But why risk the hostage when coordinated? Team approach has higher success probability. The lesson was clear. Overwhelming individual power wasn't always optimal solution. They ran through scenario after scenario, each one designed to demonstrate Gotham's unique challenges. Poison gas that Infinity couldn't stop because civilians would inhale it before Gojo could act. Bomb threats where defusing required technical knowledge, not brute force. Psychological manipulation, where villains convinced civilians to become human shields. Every scenario had a team-based solution. Every scenario showed Gojo's solo approach, creating complications. You're teaching me to rely on others, Gojo realized after the seventh simulation. Deliberately showing me situations where being the strongest isn't enough. I'm teaching you that strongest is context-dependent. Bruce pulled up a new simulation, this time, showing a massive figure in gray stone body. This is Clayface, shapeshifter made of living clay. Your spatial manipulation affects physical matter, but he can reform from any damage. Your unlimited void might overload his consciousness temporarily, but he survived mental attacks from Martian Manhunter. How do you fight something that adapts to every physical assault? Gojo studied the simulation, Six Eyes analyzing Clayface material composition. Chemistry. If he's clay-based, there must be chemical compounds that can neutralize or solidify his structure. I'd need someone with scientific expertise to identify the right agent. Then, coordinate delivery while I keep him occupied. Correct. The answer isn't more power. It's appropriate application of available resources. Bruce deactivated the simulation. That's Gotham survival. Recognizing when to punch harder and when to call for backup. You're used to being the cavalry. Here, you're part of the cavalry. They trained for 3 more hours. Bruce demonstrating detective techniques that Six Eyes could enhance. Oracle joining via comm to coordinate tactical scenarios. Alfred occasionally interjecting with dry observations about Bruce's teaching methods. Master Bruce tends to focus on worst-case scenarios. I assure you, Mr. Satoru, Gotham does occasionally have quiet evenings. Around 1 p.m., they broke for lunch. Bruce led Gojo to the cave's command center, where multiple screens displayed Oracle's ongoing investigation into the escaped court members. Barbara's been tracking their financial movements. Bruce explained, pulling up transaction records. The court's power was based on generational wealth and institutional connections. Cut off their resources. They're just wealthy individuals with assassin training. Any leads? 1. Bruce highlighted a property transaction from 6 hours earlier. Warehouse in the Tricorner Yards, shipping district. Minimal surveillance, perfect for hiding. Purchase was made through shell company owned by one of the escaped court members. Too obvious to be unintentional. A trap, Gojo concluded. Obviously, but also an opportunity. They want us to find them, which means they're prepared for confrontation. Question is whether they're preparing to fight or negotiate. After burying their headquarters and arresting their leader, they want to negotiate. The court's pragmatic. Eleanor was their ideological leader, but the remaining 6 are business people first. They might recognize that continued conflict costs more than accommodation. Bruce pulled up surveillance feeds around the warehouse, or they're consolidating forces for one final assassination attempt. Either way, we need to know. When do we investigate? Tonight. Full team deployment. You, me, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, Oracle coordinating from here. We go in prepared for combat, but open to communication. Bruce turned to face Gojo directly. This will be your first coordinated Bat Family operation. Follow my tactical lead, coordinate your movements with the team. And remember, overwhelming power is Plan B, not Plan A. Gojo nodded, understanding the test beneath the operation. Bruce was evaluating whether he could actually function as team member, rather than solo operator. The afternoon passed in operational planning. Oracle briefed them on the warehouse's layout, potential escape routes, and contingencies for various threat scenarios. Nightwing joined via secure video, offering tactical suggestions with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Batgirl confirmed her equipment loadout. Red Hood complained about non-lethal restrictions, but grudgingly agreed to follow Batman's protocols. Around 6 p.m., Alfred served dinner in the cave, apparently a regular occurrence. During major operations, the food was excellent, the company professional but not cold. Gojo found himself appreciating the Bat family's dynamic. They argued, disagreed on methods, and clearly had personality conflicts. But when mission planning happened, they synchronized with practiced efficiency. This was what Bruce had been teaching all day. That power meant nothing without coordination. That even the strongest needed team support. That Gotham's survival depended on heroes who could set aside ego for tactical necessity. You're quieter than expected, Nightwing observed during dinner. Oracle's reports made you sound more playful. I'm thinking, Gojo admitted. In my world, I'm used to being the solution to impossible problems. Solo operator who shows up, fixes the situation, and leaves. This. He gestured at the team assembled around the table. Coordinating with others, following someone else's tactical lead, relying on team members to handle elements. I could theoretically manage alone. It's different. Different good or different bad? Batgirl asked. Different necessary. Gojo met Bruce's eyes across the table. Batman's been showing me all day that my approach creates unnecessary risks. That being able to solve problems solo doesn't mean I should. It's humbling, honestly. And I don't get humbled often. Welcome to the Bat family, Red Hood muttered, where Bruce's paranoia and contingency planning make everyone feel inadequate. It's not paranoia if the threats are real, Jason, Bruce said calmly. And the goal isn't to make anyone feel inadequate, it's to ensure everyone survives. At 8 p.m., they began final preparations. Gojo watched the team gear up with professional efficiency. Batman's armor and equipment, Nightwing's eskrima sticks and acrobatic suit, Batgirl's technical gear and analysis tools, Red Hood's weapons, non-lethal tonight, under protest. Bruce approached with something in his hand, a domino mask, similar to Nightwing's, but sized for Gojo. If you're operating with the family, you need consistent identity protection, Bruce explained. The blindfold is distinctive. but it also marks you as the spatial manipulator from another dimension. This gives you operational flexibility. You can be Gojo Satoru, mysterious interdimensional refugee. Or you can be. He paused. Do you have a codename preference? Gojo considered. In his world, he'd always just been Gojo Satoru, the strongest, the honored one. But Gotham operated differently. Heroes wore masks, took on identities separate from civilian selves. Infinity, he decided. It's what I do. It's what I am. Works as codename. Infinity it is. Bruce handed over the mask. Welcome to Gotham's vigilante community. Try not to get yourself killed on your first coordinated operation. I'm mathematically unkillable, remember? So was every other invincible hero who's died in this city. Bruce's tone was serious, despite the slight smile. Gotham has a way of finding impossibilities and making them happen. Stay alert, follow the tactical plan, and trust your team. At 9 p.m., they deployed. 5 heroes in various vehicles. Batman in the Batmobile, Nightwing on his motorcycle, Batgirl in her own specialized bike, Red Hood in a tactical van loaded with equipment, and Gojo traveling via blue-enhanced jumps across Gotham's rooftops. 6 eyes tracking the team's movements while maintaining communication through his secure comm. The Tricorner yards loomed ahead, industrial wasteland of shipping containers, cranes, and warehouses that had seen better decades. The target warehouse sat at the district's heart, surrounded by clear sight lines and limited approach vectors. Perfect kill box for defending forces, or perfect stage for negotiation under controlled conditions. Oracle's voice filled their comms. I'm detecting 6 heat signatures inside the warehouse, positioned in defensive formation around Central Point. No Talon signatures, they're alone. Electromagnetic scans show no explosives or traps, but they have communication equipment and wait. Wait what? Batman demanded. They're broadcasting on emergency Justice League frequency. Someone in that warehouse has access to League communication protocols. Oracle's typing accelerated. Routing the message to your comms now. A new voice entered their communication network. Cultured, professional, carrying weight of authority without Eleanor's aristocratic condescension. Batman. Gojo Satoru. The Court of Owls requests parley under terms of mutual non-aggression. We have information relevant to the spatial manipulator's arrival in Gotham. Information you'll want to hear before deciding whether to bury us like our headquarters. Bruce and Gojo exchanged glances across the distance, coordinating silently. It's a trap, Red Hood said over comms. Obviously, Nightwing agreed. But if they actually have intel on why Gojo's here, we go in carefully, Batman decided. Tactical formation, weapons ready, prepared for betrayal. But we listen. Oracle, maintain sensor lock and be ready to extract us if this goes sideways. Copy that. And Batman, be careful. Something about this feels wrong. They approached the warehouse in coordinated pattern, Batman taking point. Gojo covering from aerial position, Nightwing and Batgirl flanking. Red Hood maintaining rear security with weapons ready. The warehouse doors stood open in clear invitation. Inside, lit by industrial lights, 6 figures waited. No owl masks now, no ceremonial robes. Just 6 wealthy Gothamites in expensive suits, standing around a table where holographic display showed something that made 6 eyes pause. A dimensional map, showing the rift that had brought Gojo to Gotham. And behind it, a signature that 6 eyes recognized from the moment of his arrival, the entity that had been watching from between dimensions, the presence that had seemed pleased when Gojo entered the game. The bronze-masked elder from the court's chamber stepped forward, now revealed as an elderly man with sharp eyes and calculating expression. Welcome, heroes of Gotham. Thank you for accepting our invitation. He gestured at the holographic display. We've spent the past 12 hours analyzing the dimensional breach that brought your new ally to our city, and we've discovered something deeply concerning. The hologram shifted, showing energy patterns that 6 eyes confirmed matched the rift's signature. Gojo Satoru wasn't sent to Gotham by accident, the court member continued. He was sent by something that's been planning this for a very long time. Something that exists in the spaces between dimensions, watching our reality, waiting for the perfect moment to act. The hologram zoomed in on a specific energy signature, and Gojo felt recognition ice through his veins. Because he'd seen that signature before. in his own world during the Shibuya incident. The signature of Kenjaku, the ancient curse user who'd taken Geto's body, who'd been manipulating events for centuries, who'd orchestrated the disaster that had left Japan's Jujitsu society in ruins. That's impossible, Gojo said quietly. Kenjaku can't cross dimensions. He's trapped in my reality by its fundamental laws. Perhaps he was, the court member agreed. But someone or something has given him access to ours. And according to our analysis, his purpose in sending you here wasn't altruistic. The hologram shifted again, showing a web of connections between Gotham's major threats, Arkham inmates, criminal organizations, supernatural entities, all linked by subtle energy signatures that matched Kenjaku's pattern. Your arrival was meant to destabilize Gotham's power structures, the court member explained. Create chaos that would allow external force to exploit the resulting vacuum. The court was supposed to deploy our full Talon reserves against you, exhausting both sides, leaving Gotham vulnerable to. He trailed off, uncertain. To what? Batman demanded. To invasion. Oracle's voice cut through the comms, sharp with alarm. Batman, I'm detecting massive dimensional disturbance forming over Arkham Asylum. Energy's signature matches the breach that brought Gojo here, but it's 50 times larger. Something's coming through. Something. The night sky lit up with crackling energy as reality tore open above Gotham's most infamous prison. And from that tear emerged shapes that made six eyes widen in recognition and horror. Cursed spirits. Dozens of them. Special-grade entities that should not exist in a reality without cursed energy. Kenjaku had found a way to export Japan's supernatural threats to a world unprepared for them. And he'd used Gojo Satoru as the catalyst to make it possible. The cursed spirits descended on Arkham Asylum like a plague given form. Six eyes tracked them through the dimensional tear, 3 special-grade entities and at least 24 Grade 1 curses. Their forms twisted manifestations of human fear and malice. A massive centipede-like curse with human faces screaming from its carapace. A gelatinous entity that pulsed with concentrated rage. Something that looked like a forest of grasping hands growing from a central mass of teeth. Things that should not exist in a universe without cursed energy. Things that Gotham's heroes had no framework to understand or fight. What the hell are those? Red Hood's voice cracked through the comms. Professional composure fracturing at the sight of impossible horrors. Cursed spirits, Gojo said, already moving. Blue-enhanced jump carried him from the warehouse toward Arkham in a trajectory that covered 3 miles in seconds. Manifestations of negative human emotion from my reality. They're not alive in the conventional sense, they're supernatural entities that feed on fear and despair. Can we fight them? Batman demanded, the Batmobile's engine roaring as it accelerated toward the asylum. Not conventionally. They're invisible to people without cursed energy. You won't even see them coming. And physical attacks won't work without cursed energy. Reinforcement. Gojo's mind raced through tactical implications while Six Eyes processed the dimensional tiers. Structure. I need to close that rift before more come through. But I also need to exorcise the ones already here. I can't do both simultaneously. Prioritize the rift, Batman decided immediately. If more come through, we're overwhelmed. The team will handle crowd control, keep civilians away, evacuate Arkham, contain the physical damage. You can't see them, Gojo repeated urgently. These things will kill people you're trying to protect, and you won't even know they're there until bodies start dropping. Oracle's voice cut through, tense but focused. Can you make them visible? Any technique or ability that would let us perceive these entities. Six Eyes analyzed the problem. Cursed spirits were invisible because humans lacked the spiritual perception to see cursed energy. But visibility wasn't binary. It was about wavelengths, frequencies, perception methods. If he could, I can try something, Gojo said, landing on Arkham's outer wall as the cursed spirits began circling the facility. The asylum's inmates were screaming inside, though whether from seeing the curses or just responding to the chaos was unclear. Give me 30 seconds. He activated a technique he'd never attempted before, using Limitless to manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum around the cursed spirits, forcing them to reflect visible light. It was inefficient, required constant conscious maintenance, and would drain his reserves faster than normal combat. But if it let Batman's team coordinate their defense, the cursed spirits suddenly became visible to normal human perception, still horrifying, but now detectable by standard optics. "Oh my God," Batgirl breathed over the comms. "Batman, are you seeing this?" "I see them." Batman's voice remained controlled despite facing supernatural entities his tactical training couldn't have prepared for. "Gojo, can we hurt them now that they're visible?" "No. Visibility doesn't change their fundamental nature. They're still immune to physical attacks without cursed energy reinforcement, but you can see where they are, predict their movements, evacuate civilians from their path." Gojo's attention split between maintaining visibility technique and analyzing the dimensional tear. "I'm going for the rift. Keep people alive until I can close it and deal with the curses." He launched toward the tear, Six Eyes processing its structure. The opening was sophisticated, not the chaotic breach that had brought him here, but engineered dimensional tunnel with stabilization protocols. Kenjaku's work, refined over whatever time he'd spent studying DC's reality. As Gojo approached, the rift pulsed, and a figure stepped through. Human-shaped, but wrong in ways Six Eyes immediately recognized. The body was Suguru Geto's, his best friend's stolen corpse, worn like clothing by the ancient curse user who'd killed him. The same gentle features twisted by centuries of malevolent intelligence. The same smile that used to mean friendship, now meaning calculated cruelty. "Kenjaku." Satoru, the ancient curse user greeted, spreading Geto's arms in mockery of welcome. "I was hoping you'd arrive in time. It wouldn't be the same without the strongest sorcerer witnessing my greatest work." Rage flooded through Gojo's system, hot, immediate, threatening his tactical awareness. Seeing Geto's face, hearing that voice coming from his dead friend's throat, knowing that Kenjaku had killed Suguru and stolen his body for some centuries-long scheme. Six Eyes caught the tactical trap immediately. Kenjaku wanted him angry, wanted him to attack without thinking, burn energy in emotional assault while more curses poured through the rift. Gojo forced the rage down through brutal mental discipline. "Explain. Now, how did you cross realities? Why drag me to Gotham? What's your endgame?" Always so direct. Kenjaku adjusted Geto's face into expression of theatrical disappointment. "Can't we simply appreciate the moment? I've spent 3 months studying this reality's dimensional structure, cultivating relationships with entities that exist between worlds, learning the mechanics of how to pierce the barriers. It's been exhausting work, Satoru. The least you could do is acknowledge the achievement." 3 months, Gojo repeated, Six Eyes analyzing the timeline. "You started this before Shibuya, before you executed your plan in our world. This was always part of your scheme. Shibuya was preparation. Chaos in our reality created enough negative cursed energy to power the dimensional breach while drawing your attention away from the true goal." Kenjaku gestured at Gotham's skyline. "This city, Satoru. This beautiful, broken, perfect city. Do you understand what it represents?" "A target," Gojo said flatly. "You're using Gotham for something. I'm using Gotham as a laboratory." Kenjaku's enthusiasm was disturbing in Geto's stolen face. "In our world, cursed energy comes from humanity's negative emotions. But it's diffuse, spread across populations, requiring major disasters to generate useful concentrations. Gotham is different." He gestured at the asylum below, where cursed spirits were now attacking the facility. Six Eyes tracked Batman's team coordinating evacuation. They couldn't fight the curses, but they could move civilians out of their path, could use their visibility to predict and avoid attacks. Gotham has centuries of concentrated fear, anger, and despair compressed into one city. Kenjaku continued. The ambient emotional energy here is 100 times denser than Tokyo during a major disaster. And the best part? It's self-sustaining. This city generates enough negative emotion daily to support a permanent, cursed spirit population without artificial cultivation. The implication crystallized in Gojo's mind. You're going to turn Gotham into a curse breeding ground, create permanent population of cursed spirits in a reality that has no natural framework to fight them. More than that, Kenjaku pulled something from Geto's robes, a small object that Six Eyes identified as a cursed object of immense power. I'm going to use Gotham's emotional density to create something our reality never achieved, a sustained dimensional bridge. Once established, I can export cursed spirits to any location on this earth, seed them in high-density population centers. Watch humanity try to fight threats they can't see or understand. And you sent me here as bait, Gojo realized. You knew I'd fight to protect Gotham, that I'd exhaust myself against the court and their talents, that I'd be vulnerable when you made your actual move. Not just bait, catalyst. Kinjaku's smile widened. Your presence here weakened the dimensional barriers. Your techniques, operating in a foreign reality, created microscopic tears in space-time. Every time you used domain expansion, you made it easier for me to force the larger breach. You've been unknowingly facilitating my invasion since you arrived. Gojo felt the weight of that statement. Every fight, every intervention, every use of his power had been playing into Kinjaku's hands. The ancient curse user had turned his greatest strength, his overwhelming power, into a weapon against Gotham itself. I'm going to close that rift, Gojo stated, pushing past the guilt. Then I'm going to exorcise every curse you've sent through. Then I'm going to drag you back to our reality and finish what should have been done when you killed Gojo. You're welcome to try. Kinjaku activated the cursed object, and the dimensional tear expanded dramatically. But first, you'll need to handle the special grade entities. I've been saving for this exact moment. 3 massive cursed spirits emerged from the rift, special grades. That Six Eyes recognized from his world's most dangerous classifications. Jogo, the volcano-headed curse of fire and earth, its body radiating heat that warped the air around it. Hanami, the nature curse Gojo had killed during Shibuya, somehow reconstructed or preserved. And Dagon, the ocean curse that had nearly killed Nanami and Maki during its domain expansion. 3 special grade curses that individually required at least grade 1 sorcerer teams to combat. Together, they represented existential threat level that would overwhelm most Jujutsu Society's combat forces. And Gojo was still at approximately 40% capacity after yesterday's court battle. You can fight them and let more curses flood through the rift, Kinjaku offered, voice dripping with false sympathy. Or you can try closing the dimensional tear and let them attack the city unchallenged. Choose quickly, I estimate you have about 90 seconds before they start targeting civilians. Below, Batman's voice cracked through the comms. Gojo, 3 new massive entities just emerged. They're heading toward the evacuation routes. Can you intercept? Tactical calculation ran through Gojo's mind at superhuman speed. 3 special grades required his full attention to combat, but letting them attack civilians meant guaranteed casualties. The dimensional rift needed closing, but fighting the curses meant more entities would pour through. While he was engaged, he couldn't do both, not at reduced capacity, not without backup that understood cursed spirit combat. Unless Batman, Gojo said, making the decision that went against every instinct. I need your team to run interference on those 3 large entities. You can't hurt them, but you can slow them down, draw their attention, force them to chase you instead of civilians. Buy me 2 minutes to close the rift. We can't see them anymore, Batgirl reported. The visibility technique you were maintaining just cut out, because Gojo needed that energy for what came next. Use thermal imaging. They generate heat signatures distinct from the environment. Track them that way, stay mobile, don't let them corner you. And whatever happens, don't let them touch you. Physical contact with cursed spirits is lethal without cursed energy. Protection. You're asking us to play bait for supernatural entities we can't fight. Red Hood stated. That's suicide. That's trust. Batman corrected, already coordinating movements. Gojo needs time to close the invasion point. We give him that time. Oracle, overlay thermal imaging on all team displays. Nightwing, take Jogo, the volcano-headed entity. Batgirl, track Hanami, the plant-based curse. Red Hood, and I will handle Dagon. Move fast, use environmental cover, survive. The team deployed without further argument. Years of training and trust in Batman's tactical judgment, overriding their fear of impossible threats. Six Eyes tracked them scattering across Arkham's grounds, drawing the 3 special grades away from civilian evacuation routes through, pure speed and tactical positioning. Gojo turned his full attention to the dimensional rift. Kenjaku watched with amusement. You're really going to trust this reality's heroes to handle special-grade curses? Satoru, they're going to die, and their deaths will be your responsibility. Because you chose closing the rift over. Protecting them. They won't die, Gojo said, hands forming the complex signs for spatial manipulation at dimensional scale. Because they're better than you think, and I'm faster than you remember. He activated the technique he'd been developing since arriving in Gotham. Dimensional seal modification. Using limitless to force space-time barriers closed from inside instead of outside. It required understanding both DC's reality physics and his own universe's cursed energy mechanics simultaneously, threading them together in a way that neither system was designed to accommodate. The rift screamed as it began collapsing. Kenjaku's expression shifted from amusement to alarm. That's not possible. You can't manipulate dimensional barriers without access to the exact quantum signature that brought me here? Gojo interrupted, six eyes showing him the mathematical structure of the rift. The barrier between realities remembers my passage. I've been analyzing it since I arrived, learning its structure, understanding how it works. You gave me the key when you pulled me through, Kenjaku. You just didn't realize I'd figure out how to use it. The rift collapsed by inches. Space-time barriers, slamming together with force that sent shockwaves through both dimensions. Kenjaku stumbled backward, the cursed object in his hand cracking as its power source destabilized. Below, the Bat family fought for survival against impossible odds. Nightwing dodged Jogo's volcanic eruptions through pure acrobatic skill, using Arkham's architecture to stay mobile. The curse's attacks were devastating. Pillars of fire that melted stone, waves of magma that consumed everything in their path. But Dick Grayson had trained under Batman since childhood, had mastered movement in 3 dimensions. That let him stay ahead of even supernatural pursuit. This thing is strong, Nightwing reported, voice strained as he vaulted over another fire attack. How long do I need to keep its attention? 90 seconds, Oracle responded, tracking everyone's positions through thermal imaging and seismic sensors. Gojo's rift closure is 60% complete. Stay alive 90 more seconds. Batgirl faced Hanami in what used to be Arkham's gardens. The nature curse generated thorned vines and carnivorous plants at nightmare pace, trying to overwhelm her through sheer volume. Barbara used every gadget in her arsenal, smoke pellets to obscure targeting, taser charges to disrupt. Ineffective against curses, but useful for destroying plant matter. Explosive gel to clear paths through vegetation. It's adapting, Batgirl reported. Learning my patterns. Whatever these things are, they're intelligent. They're manifestations of Earth's rage. Gojo explained while maintaining the dimensional seal. Hanami believes humans are the disease killing the planet. It's not just aggressive, it's ideologically committed to human extinction. Great. Eco-terrorist plant monster. That's a new one. Batgirl detonated another section of cursed vegetation, buying herself 3 seconds of clear space. 60 seconds, I can last 60 seconds. Batman and Red Hood coordinated against Dagon in Arkham's flooded basement. The ocean curse had generated massive amounts of water, turning the facility's lower levels into its natural habitat. The curse manifested as a nightmarish fish-human hybrid, using water manipulation to attack from every direction simultaneously. This is insane, Red Hood muttered, firing grapnel to pull himself away from a water tentacle. We're fighting something that shouldn't exist with equipment designed for human criminals. Then we adapt, Batman stated, throwing explosive batarangs into the water to disrupt Dagon's control. The detonations created temporary air pockets, brief moments of vulnerability the curse had to compensate for. Oracle, how much longer? 30 seconds. Gojo's almost there. But 30 seconds was an eternity when fighting special-grade curses. Jogo caught Nightwing with a surprise attack, pillar of flame that erupted directly beneath his position. Dick managed to dodge the center, but the edge caught his leg, burning through armor and flesh despite his enhanced reflexes. He crashed to the ground, rolling desperately as Jogo prepared a finishing blow. Down, Nightwing gasped. I'm down. Batgirl heard the call through comms and made instant decision. She activated her grapnel, swinging across Arkham's grounds toward Nightwing's position, drawing Hanami's attention away from her route. The nature curse followed, sensing vulnerability in her divided attention. Both she and Nightwing were about to die saving each other. Red Hood saw what was happening through Oracle's tactical overlay and made his own calculation. He fired both pistols at Dagon, rubber bullets that passed harmlessly through the water curse, but drew its complete attention. The entity surged toward him with oceanic fury, tentacles converging from every direction. "Jason!" Batman shouted, already moving to intercept. But he was too far, too slow, too human to reach in time. The three Bat family members were going to die because they trusted Gojo to close the rift while they ran. Interference against enemies they couldn't fight. Kinjaka laughed. And there it is. The price of heroism, the cost of trust. You chose the dimensional seal over their lives, Satoru. How does it feel to be responsible for? Gojo finished the seal. The dimensional rift slammed shut with a sound like reality screaming. Then, in the microsecond between the seal completing and the special grades killing Batman's team, Gojo moved. Domain expansion, unlimited void. He'd been saving this, rationing his energy, preparing for the moment when everything depended on one perfect application of overwhelming power. The pocket dimension expanded to encompass all of Arkham Asylum in a sphere of infinite space and infinite information. Every cursed spirit caught in the domain froze as consciousness overloaded. Jogo's finishing blow stopped inches from Nightwing's face. Hanami's thorns halted mid-strike toward Batgirl. Dagon's tentacles paused wrapped around Red Hood's torso. The 24 Grade 1 curses scattered across the facility seized simultaneously. Gojo held the domain for exactly 7 seconds, longer than safe, longer than advisable, burning through reserves he didn't have with reckless abandon. But 7 seconds was enough to incapacitate every curse, while giving the Bat family time to escape their killing blows. When he released Unlimited Void, all the cursed spirits collapsed, consciousness shattered by infinity. Gojo collapsed too. He hit Arkham's roof on his knees. Energy reserves at 3%. Vision swimming despite 6 eyes enhanced perception. Domain expansion had taken everything he had left, the closure of the dimensional rift plus the largest area of effect unlimited void he'd ever attempted had burned through power reserves that were already depleted from yesterday's court battle. Below, Batman's team pulled themselves to safety, injured but alive. Nightwing's leg was badly burned. Red Hood had cracked ribs from Dagon's pressure. Batgirl was bleeding from thorn wounds. But they were alive. Gojo. Oracle's voice cut through the haze. Your energy signature just dropped below critical. Are you? Kinjaku appeared behind him. 6 eyes registered the approach 1 second too late. Exhaustion slowing his perfect perception to merely superhuman. Geto's stolen hand grabbed Gojo's shoulder. And cursed energy, foreign, invasive, wrong, forced its way into his system. Excellent work, Satoru, Kinjaku whispered. You've demonstrated exactly what I needed to know. Your domain expansion can incapacitate cursed spirits en masse, but it leaves you vulnerable afterward. Your spatial manipulation can seal dimensional rifts, but it exhausts your reserves. And most importantly, you'll sacrifice your tactical advantage to save people you've known. For less than 48 hours, the cursed energy invasion paralyzed Gojo's limbs, stopped his techniques from activating, locked down even infinity through some method 6 eyes couldn't fully process in its degraded state. That's the difference between us, Kinjaku continued, voice carrying centuries of patient malice. You developed power through talent and training, but you never learned to think strategically beyond individual combat. I've spent 1,000 years refining the ability to win wars, not battles. And this. He gestured at the unconscious cursed spirits, the sealed dimensional rift, the exhausted heroes below. This was never the invasion, Satoru. This was the distraction. Gojo tried to speak, to demand answers, but his vocal cords wouldn't respond to his commands. 6 eyes tracked Kinjaka's energy signature through his system, binding curse technique. Sophisticated and ancient, designed specifically to counter spatial manipulation abilities. The real invasion doesn't need a dimensional rift, Kinjaku explained. Voice carrying satisfaction of a 1,000-year plan reaching fruition. It just needs one sorcerer powerful enough to sustain it. One individual with sufficient cursed energy. Reserves to power. Dimensional bridging indefinitely. One honored one whose very presence in this reality keeps the barriers weakened. Horror crystallized in Gojo's mind as he understood. You're not invading Gotham with cursed spirits, he forced out through paralyzed throat. You're turning me into the invasion point, using my energy signature as a permanent bridge between realities. Now you're thinking like a strategist. Kinjaku pulled something from Ghettos. Robes, a seal tag covered in complex curse script. This reality has so many fascinating power sources. Kryptonite, speed, force energy, magic from dozens of traditions. I'm going to study them all, Satoru. Learn their principles. Combine cursed energy with this universe's supernatural frameworks. And you're going to power the entire research program by serving as my living dimensional anchor. He pressed the seal tag to Gojo's forehead. The world exploded into agony as the binding curse activated. Gojo felt his cursed energy being rerouted, channeled, transformed into something that punched holes through dimensional barriers at quantum level. His 6 eyes showed him the horror of it. Microscopic tears opening across Gotham, each one a potential invasion point, each one sustained by his own power against his will. Stop, he managed, trying to activate any technique, any defense, finding all of them locked down by Kinjaku's binding. I will, Kinjaku promised. In approximately 300 years. Once I've completed my research and no longer need this reality. Until then, sleep well, Gojo Satoru. Dream of how your strength became their weakness, your power their prison. Batman's batarang struck Kinjaku in the shoulder. The ancient curse user stumbled, surprise crossing Ghetto's stolen face. Below, Batman stood with launcher raised, already firing a second projectile. Nightwing was up despite his injured leg, Escrima sticks charged. Batgirl had her grapnel aimed. Red Hood was reloading despite his cracked ribs. Get away from our teammate, Batman stated, voice carrying absolute conviction. Kinjaku looked at the approaching heroes and laughed. Teammates? He's known you for 2 days. Do you really think? 3 more batarangs, electrified and explosive. Nightwing's mid-air strike. Batgirl's taser. Red Hood's rubber bullets, loaded with something that exploded on impact with cursed energy. Signatures Batman had been preparing. Oracle's coordinated tactical overlay guiding their strikes. Kinjaku was forced to abandon his binding curse to defend against the assault. The seal tag fell from Gojo's forehead, and the paralysis broke. Gojo surged upward on pure instinct and rage. 3% energy reserves. Barely enough to activate basic techniques. But he didn't need overwhelming power. He just needed one clean strike against a target distracted by Bat family coordination. Blue, maximum output, all remaining energy, concentrated in a single point. The attractive force caught Kinjaku mid-dodge, yanked him off balance, pulled him directly into Gojo's waiting fist. The strike landed with force enhanced by spatial manipulation, cursed energy reinforcement, and 1,000 years of postponed retribution. Ghetto's stolen body crumpled. Kinjaku, the ancient curse user who'd orchestrated Shibuya, who'd killed thousands, who'd worn Gojo's best friend's corpse like clothing, crashed into Arkham's wall hard enough to crack stone. Gojo stood over him, vision blurring, reserves at 0, body running on rage and willpower alone. Wrong calculation, Gojo managed. I'm not just the strongest. I'm part of a team now, and teams don't leave each other behind. Kinjaku tried to rise, but Batman was already there with specialized restraints. Oracle guided the application through comms. Nightwing and Batgirl covered escape routes. Red Hood just pointed his weapons and waited for excuse. It's over, Batman stated, securing the final restraint. You failed. Failed? Kinjaku laughed through Ghettos. Bloody mouth. The dimensional barriers are already compromised. The seal tag I planted in Gojo will continue slowly converting his energy signature into a bridge. And even if you remove it, the damage is done. Gotham's ambient cursed energy density is now high enough to sustain minor spirit manifestations indefinitely. He looked directly at Gojo. You think you won because you captured me? Satoru, I'm just the vanguard. Others will follow. Your presence here proved dimensional crossing is possible. Jujitsu Society's worst elements. Curse users who'll see this reality as a resource to be harvested. They'll come, eventually, following the pathway I established. And when they do, this universe's heroes will face threats they have no framework to combat. Then we'll adapt, Batman said simply. We have Gojo to teach us about cursed energy and cursed spirits. We have Oracle to analyze and catalog their properties. We have heroes who've faced gods and monsters before. Your invasion failed. Your backup plans will fail. And you will spend whatever remains of your existence in a cell, designed by the world's greatest detective specifically, to hold someone with your abilities. Kinjaka smiled. We'll see. Batman signaled for GCPD extraction. Within minutes, armored vehicles arrived to transport the ancient curse user to a specialized containment facility. The unconscious cursed spirits required different handling. Oracle coordinated with Zatanna and Constantine to develop binding spells that would hold them until Gojo recovered enough energy to perform proper exorcisms. As dawn broke over Gotham, the Bat family gathered on Arkham's roof. All of them injured, exhausted, traumatized by fighting supernatural entities they couldn't hurt, but alive. You trusted us, Nightwing said. Looking at Gojo, gave us an impossible task, distract special grade. Curses we couldn't even see properly, and trusted we'd survive long enough for you to close the rift. You trusted us back, Batgirl added. Could have tried to handle everything solo. Burned yourself out, probably died in the process. Instead, you coordinated. Let us help. Accepted that even the strongest needs backup sometimes. Gojo nodded, too exhausted for words. The seal tag Kinjaku had planted still pulsed at the edge of his perception. Six eyes could sense it embedded in his energy signature, slowly converting his cursed energy into dimensional bridge. They'd need to find a way to remove it, but that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, they'd won. Sort of. Batman's hand landed on Gojo's shoulder. Actual physical contact. Not stopped by infinity because Gojo had consciously lowered the barrier for his teammates. Welcome to the Bat family, Batman said quietly. You've earned it. Red Hood snorted. He saves the city from interdimensional invasion, and you give him the standard probationary approval? Bruce, your emotional constipation is showing. Jason, Batman said warningly. But Gojo laughed, exhausted, pained, but genuine. Because for the first time since arriving in this reality, he felt like he'd found his place. Not as the honored one standing above everyone else. As part of a team. 3 days passed in a blur of recovery, debriefing, and damage control. Gojo spent most of it in Wang Manor's medical facility, a fully equipped hospital wing hidden beneath the estate because, of course, Batman had one. Alfred monitored his vitals while Oracle coordinated with Constantine and Zatanna to develop a method for removing Kinjaka's seal tag, the binding curse embedded in Gojo's energy signature resisted every magical approach they attempted, adapting to countermeasures with sophistication that suggested centuries of refinement. It's parasitic, Constantine explained during his third visit. Cigarette dangling from his lips despite Alfred's disapproving glare. The seal's designed to feed off your energy while simultaneously using it to punch holes in dimensional barriers. Remove it wrong, you either kill your power permanently or rip a permanent gateway to your reality right through your chest. Neither option's particularly appealing, mate. Can you remove it right? Gojo asked from the medical bed, 6 eyes tracking the curse's structure through his own body. The seal pulsed with regular rhythm, converting approximately 0.03% of his cursed energy per hour into dimensional bridge material. Sustainable indefinitely, impossible to exhaust through natural recovery. Working on it, Zatanna said, hands glowing with backward speech magic as she analyzed the seal. The problem is that cursed energy and DC magic operate on different fundamental principles. Your energy comes from negative emotion given supernatural form. Our magic draws from cosmic forces, divine entities, or personal will. They're not compatible at a base level, which makes countering curses from your reality incredibly difficult. What if we don't counter it? Oracle's voice came through the medical bay speakers. What if we contain it instead? Isolate the seal's effect, prevent it from spreading. By time to develop proper removal method. Containment's possible, Constantine admitted, studying his cigarette ash. But it'd require constant magical monitoring and periodic reinforcement. Expensive, time-consuming, and one mistake means dimensional catastrophe. Not exactly sustainable long-term. Gojo processed the options, while Six Eyes monitored his recovering energy reserves currently at 70% capacity after 3 days rest. Domain expansion was still inadvisable, but basic cursed technique manipulation had returned to near-normal functionality. The seal was a problem, but not an immediate crisis. Containment works for now, Gojo decided. Gives us time to study the seal's structure, develop proper removal technique, and prevent Kinjaku from executing whatever backup plans he's undoubtedly cultivated. Speaking of Kinjaku, Batman entered the medical bay with tablet in hand, cowl down to reveal Bruce Wayne's perpetually calculating expression. GCPD's metahuman detention facility is holding him in. Specialized cell designed from oracles. Analysis of cursed energy. Magical suppression fields. Dimensional anchoring to prevent escape techniques. Constant monitoring. He's secure for now. For now, Gojo repeated. Kinjaku's survived 1,000 years through contingency, planning, and patient manipulation. Wherever he's being held, he's already working on escape protocols. Then we work faster. Bruce pulled up files on the tablet, displaying incident reports from across Gotham. The 47 cursed spirits you incapacitated during Arkham's invasion have been contained. By Justice League Dark. Constantine's people are developing binding rituals based on your descriptions of jujitsu techniques. Zatanna's coordinating with Dr. Fate to establish long-term supernatural threat protocols. What about the 3 special grades? Gojo asked. Jogo, Hanami, and Dagon require specific exorcism techniques. Standard containment won't hold them indefinitely, which is why you're going to teach us. Batman pulled up another screen showing a training facility deep in the Batcave. Once you're recovered, you'll brief the Bat family and available Justice League members on cursed energy theory, spirit classification, and combat methodology. We need Gotham's heroes educated about supernatural threats from your reality before more arrive. You believe Kinjaku's warning, Gojo realized that others will follow, using the dimensional pathway he established. Kinjaku's been strategically honest. Throughout your encounters, his threats and predictions have all proven accurate even when they seemed like manipulation. Bruce met Gojo's eyes with that penetrating detective's gaze. He said curse users would eventually follow his pathway. He said the dimensional barriers are permanently compromised. He said Gotham's ambient cursed energy density can now sustain spirit manifestations. I believe all 3 claims because dismissing them creates unacceptable risk. The door opened, and Alfred entered with a tray carrying food, perfectly balanced. Nutrition for someone recovering from energy depletion. Because the butler somehow knew exactly what Gojo's metabolism required despite cursed energy. Physiology being completely foreign to this reality. Master Bruce, Mr. Satoru requires rest and recovery, not tactical briefings. Alfred stated with polite firmness that clearly wasn't a suggestion. Perhaps you could continue this conversation after he's eaten and slept another 8 hours. I've rested enough, Gojo protested, though his body disagreed through a wave of fatigue. There's too much to Mr. Satoru. Alfred's tone carried weight that somehow made Batman take a step backward. You exhausted yourself protecting this city and its heroes. The least we can do is ensure your proper recovery. Eat, sleep, resume saving Gotham tomorrow. Constantine laughed, stubbing out his cigarette. Mate, I've seen Alfred Pennyworth face down demons and crime lords with that exact expression. You're not winning this argument. Gojo accepted the food while Batman, Constantine, and Zatanna filed out. Alfred remained long enough to ensure he actually ate, then departed with a quiet, "Rest well, sir." Alone in the medical bay, Gojo let himself feel the weight of the past 72 hours. The Arkham invasion, Kinjaku's appearance, the binding seal now embedded in his energy signature, the reality that he'd inadvertently become a dimensional bridge between realities. The honored one, strongest jujitsu sorcerer alive, reduced to a living gateway for the very threats he'd spent his life fighting. Six Eyes perceived the seal's pulse, steady, patient, impossible to ignore, converting his power into the weapon that would eventually destroy both realities unless they found removal method. Kenjaku had turned Gojo's greatest strength into everyone's greatest vulnerability. He finished eating and closed his eyes, willing sleep to come despite the tactical concerns racing through his mind. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight, he'd let Alfred be right about rest. The next morning, Gojo woke to find Damian Wayne sitting in the medical bay's corner, reading a book with perfect posture and occasional glares in his direction. "How long have you been there?" Gojo asked, Six Eyes confirming the teenager's identity, Batman's son, trained by the League of Assassins, currently serving as Robin, dangerous despite his age, brilliant despite his arrogance, struggling with his father's no-kill rule after childhood spent as an assassin. 37 minutes. Damian replied without looking up from his book. Father assigned me to monitor your recovery and escort you to the cave for briefing when you woke. Apparently, he believes you'll attempt to resume operations before fully recovered despite Alfred's instructions. Your father's paranoia extends to medical compliance. My father's paranoia extends to everything. It's one of his more tolerable qualities. Damian finally looked up, green eyes assessing Gojo with calculation that reminded him uncomfortably of Bruce. You trusted my family to handle threats we couldn't fight. Nightwing told me about the cursed spirits, about how you gave us an impossible task and believed we'd succeed. That was either tactically brilliant or monumentally stupid. Both, Gojo admitted. I needed to close the dimensional rift, which required full concentration. The only way to prevent civilian casualties while doing that was trusting your family to run. Interference against special grade curses. Tactically necessary, stupidly risky. Yet we survived. Damian closed his book, standing with warrior's grace. My father trusts you now. Provisionally, contingently, with 17 backup plans for if you go rogue, but trusts you. That's significant. He doesn't trust easily. I noticed. I don't trust you at all, Damian stated with teenage bluntness. You're too powerful, too casual about that power, too accustomed to being the strongest person in any conflict. That breeds complacency, which breeds mistakes, which in Gotham breeds casualties. But my father believes you're learning restraint and coordination. So I'll withhold judgment until you prove him right or wrong. Gojo stood, testing his energy levels, 85% capacity, continuing to improve. Fair enough. Where's this briefing? Damian led him through Wayne Manor's hidden passages into the Batcave. The facility was more crowded than Gojo's previous visit. Batman at the main computer, Nightwing reviewing tactical displays despite his bandaged leg, Batgirl coordinating with Oracle's remote presence, Red Hood cleaning weapons with obvious skepticism about non-lethal approach, and several figures Gojo didn't immediately recognize. A woman in red and gold armor with a lasso at her hip, Wonder Woman. Six Eyes identified through Oracle's brief descriptions. An Amazon warrior princess, demigoddess, member of the Trinity alongside Batman and Superman. Her posture radiated combat readiness and diplomatic grace simultaneously. A man in green and black with a ring glowing on his finger, Green Lantern. Hal Jordan specifically. Willpower made manifest through alien technology. Cocky confidence barely concealing deep-seated responsibility. He was studying the contained cursed spirits on a monitor with mix of fascination and concern. A figure in blue and red cape floating slightly above the ground, Superman. Kal-El, last son of Krypton. Symbol of hope. Potentially the most dangerous entity on Earth if he ever chose tyranny. Six Eyes tracked his power signature, immense, drawn from Earth's yellow sun, operating at a level that made even special grade curses seem manageable by comparison. Gojo Satoru. Superman greeted, extending his hand with genuine warmth. Clark Kent. Bruce briefed us on the Arkham invasion and the dimensional threat. Thank you for protecting Gotham and my League colleagues. We're in your debt. Gojo shook his hand, feeling the controlled strength in Superman's grip. This being could crush him if Infinity failed. Could probably move faster than Six Eyes could track at full speed. Represented physical power that dwarfed anything in Jiu-Jitsu society. And he used that power to be nice. Genuinely. Disarmingly, almost naively nice. Just doing what needed doing, Gojo replied. Though I'm apparently also the reason dimensional barriers are compromised. So maybe don't thank me yet. That wasn't your fault, Wonder Woman said, voice carrying Amazon authority. You were transported against your will, then manipulated by an ancient evil who'd been planning this for months. Taking responsibility for Kinjaku's actions is tactically pointless and emotionally destructive. Diana's right, Hal Jordan added, Green Lantern ring pulsing slightly. I've fought interdimensional threats before. Bad guys love making heroes feel responsible for invasions they didn't cause. It's psychological warfare. Don't give them that power. Batman pulled up the briefing materials. We're here to establish protocols for cursed energy threats. Gojo will provide technical briefing on spirit classification, combat methodology, and detection techniques. The League needs comprehensive understanding before the next incursion. Over the next 3 hours, Gojo explained Jujutsu Society's framework to Earth's greatest heroes. He described cursed energy, negative emotion converted to supernatural power, invisible to non-sorcerers, capable of manifesting as cursed spirits of varying grades. He demonstrated basic cursed technique principles, showing how spatial manipulation could be adapted to this reality's physics. He explained domain expansion theory, the risks and benefits, the energy costs that made it unsustainable for extended operations. Wonder Woman asked tactical questions about combat against regenerating entities. Superman inquired about ethical frameworks for fighting beings born from human emotion rather than conscious choice. Green Lantern wondered if his ring's willpower-based constructs could harm cursed spirits. Batman cataloged every detail for contingency planning. The fundamental problem, Gojo explained, gesturing at the contained special grades on the monitors, is that cursed spirits are invisible and intangible to people without cursed energy perception. I can make them visible temporarily through spatial manipulation, but that's energy-intensive and unsustainable. For DC's heroes to fight curses independently, you'd need either cursed energy training or magical sight enhancement. Dr. Fate could provide sight enhancement to key personnel, Wonder Woman suggested. Lords of Order magic operates on similar principles to your cursed energy, channeling fundamental forces through practitioner will. Constantine mentioned teaching a few select people cursed energy perception through ritual magic, Batman added. Said it'd be agonizing and dangerous, but possible, if we limited it to experienced League members with magical resistance. I'll volunteer, Hal said immediately. Green Lantern Corps has protocols for perceiving alien threat spectrums. This is just another wavelength to add. As will I, Wonder Woman stated. Amazon training includes spiritual perception. Adapting it to recognize cursed energy should be feasible. Superman remained silent, expression thoughtful. I can see across multiple spectrums already, X-ray, infrared, ultraviolet. But if cursed energy operates outside electromagnetic spectrum entirely, my vision won't help. I'd need the magical enhancement, which could be problematic given my vulnerability to magic. Or, Oracle's voice cut through the speakers. We developed technology that detects cursed energy signatures. Batman, what if we adapted the sensors you use to track Gojo's dimensional signature? Could we build cursed energy detectors for non-magical personnel? Batman's fingers flew across the Batcomputer. Theoretically possible. The energy signature is detectable through quantum-level analysis. Building handheld scanners would require miniaturizing the sensor array, but Wayne Tech has the resources. Give me 2 weeks. In the meantime, Gojo said, I can teach basic cursed energy perception to willing volunteers. It won't give you full sorcerer's sight, but it might let you sense cursed spirits' presence even if you can't see them clearly. Better than being completely blind to threats. I'm in, Nightwing said immediately. Anything that prevents me from nearly dying to invisible plant monsters gets my vote. Same, Batgirl agreed. Red Hood just grunted, which apparently meant consent in his communication style. Over the next several hours, Gojo worked with the Bat family on cursed energy perception training. It was crude, teaching people who'd never sensed supernatural energy to recognize its presence through meditation and focus exercises. But Batman's people were disciplined enough to make progress. By evening, Nightwing could sense vague impressions of cursed presence. Batgirl identified the direction of contained spirits with 60% accuracy. Even Red Hood admitted to feeling something weird near the special grades. Batman, predictably, achieved near-perfect perception after 30 minutes of training. Because of course he did. You have natural talent for this, Gojo observed after Bruce correctly identified 3 different cursed spirits' locations while blindfolded. 6 eyes equivalent isn't possible for non-sorcerers, but your detective training and observation skills translate well to supernatural perception. Everything's a skill that can be learned and refined, Bruce replied, already cataloging the sensation for future reference. Cursed energy detection is just another sense to calibrate and optimize. As the training session concluded, Superman approached Gojo privately. The Kryptonian's expression was serious, carrying weight that suggested this conversation had been coming since the briefing began. "Can I ask you something?" Superman's voice was quiet, intended only for Gojo's enhanced hearing. "Sure. The Court of Owls offered you leadership position. They argued that your power could solve Gotham's crime problem through permanent elimination of threats. You refused because killing people based on my judgment, regardless of how logical it seems, makes me a tyrant," Gojo replied, sensing where this was going. The court tried to frame it as necessary protection, but it's just murder with philosophical justification. Same crime, different excuse. Superman nodded slowly. Batman told me about that conversation, about how the court used logical arguments to pressure you toward accepting killing as solution. He paused, choosing words carefully. I've faced similar arguments. People who say that with my power, I could end crime, enforce peace, eliminate threats that keep escaping justice. They make it sound reasonable, even heroic. But the moment you decide your strength justifies bypassing human systems, you become the threat, Gojo finished. Yeah, I learned that lesson watching my best friend fall to that exact logic. He thought eliminating certain people would create better world. It just made him a mass murderer with good intentions. Batman worries about me sometimes, Superman admitted quietly, about whether I'll cross that line if pushed far enough. The injustice timeline, where an alternate version of me became dictator after Joker tricked me into killing Lois, proved it's possible. I could become exactly what the court wanted you to be. A god deciding who deserves life based on personal judgment. But you don't, Gojo observed. Despite having more power than almost anyone on Earth, despite facing threats that would justify permanent solutions, despite watching criminals escape and kill again, you choose restraint anyway. Because power without restraint isn't heroism, it's oppression. Superman's blue eyes met Gojo's 6 eyes perception. I wanted to thank you for refusing the court's offer. Batman trusts my judgment, but he still watches me, still prepares contingencies in case I fall. You refusing absolute power, despite logical arguments, validates that restraint is correct choice, not weakness. The honesty struck Gojo. Superman, the strongest hero on Earth, symbol of hope itself, still grappled with doubts about whether his restraint cost innocent lives, still questioned if his refusal to kill was morally defensible when people died because villains kept escaping. We'll both keep choosing restraint, Gojo said, because the alternative is becoming the monsters we fight. And if we ever forget that, our teams will remind us by pointing all their contingency plans in our direction. Superman laughed, genuine warmth that filled the Batcave's darkness. Deal. And Gojo? Welcome to the club of people Batman trusts enough to prepare 17 backup plans for. It's smaller than you'd think. As Superman rejoined the others, Batman appeared at Gojo's shoulder. The League's approved your auxiliary membership, Bruce stated, handing over a small device, Justice League Communicator, more sophisticated than the one he'd received after the court battle. Full voting rights pending extended observation period. You'll be contacted for threats requiring your specific capabilities, dimensional incursions, reality manipulation, supernatural entities from your universe. In return, you'll continue training with the Bat family and coordinate with League protocols. And the seal? Gojo asked, touching his forehead where Kenjaku's binding curse pulsed. The dimensional bridge I'm inadvertently maintaining? Constantine and Zatanna are consulting with Dr. Fate and the Spectre. They believe removal is possible but require 3 to 4 weeks to develop the ritual safely. Until then, containment fields will prevent the seal from opening new rifts. Bruce's Expression was typically unreadable. You'll stay at Wayne Manor during containment period. Alfred insists something about proper recovery requiring stable environment and adequate nutrition. I've learned not to argue with him on medical matters. I noticed he has that effect. He's had that effect for 40 years. Bruce's voice carried rare warmth when discussing Alfred. The seal complicates things, but you've proven yourself trustworthy. The League and the Bat family will support you through removal process and whatever comes after. Even with Kinjaku's warning about curse users following his pathway, especially because of that warning. If your reality's villains are coming, we'll be prepared. You'll train us, we'll develop countermeasures. And when they arrive, they'll face coordinated response from Earth's heroes. Informed by insider knowledge. Bruce pulled up a tactical planning screen. You spent your career in your world fighting alone because you were the strongest. Here, you're one powerful individual among many. We'll face these threats together. The word hit differently now. Together, not as backup for the strongest, but as equals coordinating toward shared goal. Thank you, Gojo said quietly, for trusting me, for teaching me, for not treating me like weapon or threat. You've earned that trust. Bruce turned toward the Batcave's exit. Now come on. Alfred's prepared dinner, and he becomes terrifying when meals go cold. Even Superman doesn't argue with Alfred's dinner schedule. As they ascended to Wayne Manor, Six Eyes tracked the seal's pulse in his energy signature. Steady, patient, dangerous. Kinjaku was contained but not defeated. Curse users might follow the dimensional pathway. Gotham's cursed energy density would sustain spirit manifestations indefinitely. The threats were real, growing, potentially catastrophic. But for the first time since arriving in Gotham, Gojo wasn't facing them alone. He had a team, a family, even. Heroes who'd proven they could handle impossible odds through coordination rather than individual power. A support network that made his strength more effective rather than less necessary. The Honored One had learned to share the burden. And somehow, that made him stronger than ever. 2 weeks into the seal containment period, Gotham proved why it was called cursed. Gojo woke at 3 a.m. to Oracle's emergency broadcast through his League communicator. All available heroes to Blackgate Prison. Mass breakout in progress. 37 inmates escaped, including, her voice tightened with concern, Joker. He was dressed and moving before full consciousness engaged. Six Eyes tracking the prison's location across Gotham Bay. Blue enhanced. Jumps carried him over the water in seconds, landing on Blackgate's outer wall as chaos unfolded below. The prison was burning. Not metaphorically, actual fires raged through cell blocks, while inmates flooded toward breached perimeter walls. GCPD officers fought to contain the escape while avoiding lethal force against desperate criminals. Gunfire echoed across the facility. Explosions rocked the guard towers. And through it all, Gojo's Six Eyes detected something worse than the breakout itself. Cursed energy signatures. Dozens of them. Low-grade curses, manifestations. Born from Blackgates. Concentrated fear and violence were manifesting throughout the prison. They weren't attacking yet. Just hovering in corridors like smoke given predatory form. Feeding on the ambient terror. Most inmates couldn't see them, but their subconscious registered the supernatural presence, amplifying panic and feeding the curses further. The dimensional seal in Gojo's forehead pulsed harder, responding to the cursed energy density. Constantine's containment fields were holding, but barely. The seal wanted to convert this atmosphere into another dimensional tear. Batman's voice crackled through the calm. Gojo, GCPD reports you're on site. Status: 30+ low-grade curses manifesting throughout the facility. Gojo reported, scanning the chaos. They're feeding on the fear from the breakout, but haven't started attacking yet. If the panic escalates, they'll become aggressive and start killing anyone they can reach. Can you exorcise them? Yes, but it'll take time I don't have if I'm also handling escaped inmates. We need coordinated approach. Someone manages the curses while others recapture the prisoners. 6 Eyes tracked a familiar electromagnetic signature approaching from the east. You're 3 minutes out. Who else is responding? Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, and Robin are converging from different vectors. Superman's handling a crisis in Metropolis. Wonder Woman's off-world. Green Lanterns. En route, but 15 minutes. Away. Batman's tactical analysis came through clearly. Despite the Batmobiles' engine roar in the background, you handle the supernatural threats. We'll recapture the inmates. Oracle will coordinate. Copy that. Gojo dropped into the prison yard, immediately drawing attention from escaping inmates. Several raised weapons, mostly improvised from prison materials, and Six Eyes tracked their threat. Assessment: for an element. Potential guard, eliminate. I'm not a guard, Gojo announced. Infinity catching their thrown projectiles mid-flight. And you really don't want to waste time fighting me when you could be escaping. Most inmates took the hint and ran for the breached walls. Smart. Gojo wasn't here to stop common criminals when supernatural threats prowled the cell blocks. But one figure didn't run. Joker stood in the center of the chaos. Purple suit somehow immaculate despite the fires and violence. Green hair perfect, and that smile, that terrible, knowing smile, fixed on Gojo with disturbing intensity. Well, the Clown Prince said, voice carrying theatrical delight. The interdimensional tourist. Gotham's newest hero, the untouchable sorcerer. The man who made Batman almost smile. I've been dying to meet you, Gojo Satoru. Six Eyes tracked Joker's vitals. Elevated heart rate, but controlled. Pupils dilated with manic energy, but focused sharp. This man was insane by conventional metrics. But there was intelligence behind the madness. Dangerous intelligence that had survived decades of Batman's pursuit through sheer, unpredictable brilliance. Not interested in conversation, Gojo stated, already moving past Joker toward the cell blocks where curses were beginning to attack confused inmates. Go escape or don't. I have actual threats to handle. Actual threats? Joker's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, that's perfect. The god among men dismisses the Joker as beneath his notice. Batman would never be so deliciously arrogant. Something in his tone made Six Eyes pause. Not threat exactly, but anticipation. Joker had planned for this moment, prepared something specific for their meeting. What did you do? Gojo demanded. Me? I'm just a simple prisoner taking advantage of a convenient breakout. Joker spread his hands innocently, though I may have convinced a few enterprising inmates to grab some very special items from the evidence lockup on their way out. Items confiscated from that nasty business at Arkham Asylum 2 weeks ago. Curious little papers covered in foreign writing that the GCPD didn't quite know what to do with. Horror crystallized in Gojo's mind. The seal tags. Kinjaku's binding curse tags from the invasion. Such exotic names. Yes, those peculiar papers that your magical friends said were incredibly dangerous and should be immediately destroyed, but were kept for analysis because Batman never met a weapon he didn't want to study. Joker's grin widened impossibly. 3 inmates have them now. Wonderful fellows, murderers, arsonists, the usual Gotham hospitality. And I may have whispered that pressing these papers to their foreheads would grant them magical powers. You weaponized cursed objects against people who can't control them. Gojo's voice was flat with controlled fury. Those seals will convert their life force into dimensional bridges. They'll die screaming, while opening portals for more cursed spirits to flood through. Will they? How unfortunate. Joker didn't sound remotely concerned. Better stop them quickly then. Tick-tock, hero. 3 dying inmates somewhere in Gotham, about to become interdimensional doorways. Can you save them all before they open gates to hell? Or will you have to choose? This one lives. Those 2 die. Hello darkness, my old friend. Oracle, Gojo shouted into his calm. Track any escaped Blackgate inmates carrying Kinjaku's seal tags. Urgently. Searching got them. 3 signatures matching the cursed energy readings from Arkham. They're scattered across the city, one in the Narrows, one heading toward Robinson Park, one in the Diamond District. Oracle's typing was frantic. Gojo, if those seals activate. I know. Multiple dimensional breaches. More cursed spirits flooding through. Potential cascade failure of Constantine's containment on my seal. Gojo calculated distances, travel times, optimal response routes. Batman, I need to handle this immediately. The prison curses are secondary threat, compared to preventing new dimensional tears. Understood. Go. Batman's Batmobile screech carried through the comm as he arrived at Blackgate. The family will handle the prison. You stop the seals. Gojo launched toward the nearest signature, the Narrows, 2 miles northeast. Blue-enhanced movement carried him across Gotham at supersonic velocity. 6 eyes tracking the cursed energy. Signature while the seal in his forehead pulsed harder with each second. He found the first inmate in an alley, already pressing the seal tag to his forehead with shaking hands. The man's eyes were wild, desperate, probably promised power, revenge, escape from whatever trauma had landed him in Blackgate. Stop. Gojo appeared in front of him, hand raised. That seal will kill you. Put it down. You're lying. The inmate clutched the seal tighter. The clown said this would give me power. Said I could be strong enough to hurt the people who hurt me. The clown is a psychopath who wants you to die painfully while opening a gateway for supernatural monsters. Gojo kept his voice calm despite urgency screaming. Through his system, I can see what that seal does. It'll drain your life force and use it to punch holes in reality. You'll be dead in 3 minutes if you activate it. Doubt flickered in the inmate's eyes. But I could finally. Finally what? Be powerful? Be feared? I'm offering you something better, actual survival. Gojo extended his hand. Give me the seal. I'll make sure it's destroyed properly. You get to live. Maybe get actual help instead of dying as part of Joker's sick experiment. The inmate's hand trembled. For 3 heartbeats, it could have gone either way. Then he handed over the seal tag. Gojo took it carefully, 6 eyes analyzing its structure, identical to the one Kenjaku had planted on him. Designed to convert life force into dimensional bridge. He destroyed it immediately through cursed energy disruption, the tag burning away. In his palm. Go, he told the inmate. Run, hide, turn yourself in, I don't care. Just don't touch any more cursed objects. The man fled into Gotham's shadows. 1 down, 2 to go. 6 eyes tracked the second signature toward Robinson Park while his comm crackled with updates from Blackgate. Batman had arrived. The Bat family was coordinating inmate recapture. The low-grade curses were becoming aggressive but manageable. Red Hood was pushing for lethal force authorization against violent escapees. Batman was refusing. Standard Gotham chaos. Gojo reached Robinson Park in 90 seconds, finding the second inmate already activating the seal. The man screamed as his life force drained, body convulsing while cursed energy converted to dimensional bridge material. A tear began forming in the air above him, small, unstable, but growing. Gojo didn't have time for negotiations this round. He grabbed the man with one hand, ripped the seal from his forehead with the other, and destroyed it while using reverse cursed technique to stabilize the inmate's draining life force. The dimensional tear collapsed before fully opening, reality snapping shut with almost audible relief. The inmate collapsed unconscious but alive. Gojo flagged his location. 4 GCPD pickup and immediately launched toward the third signature, the Diamond District, Gotham's wealthy quarter, where expensive apartments overlooked the city's desperate poverty. The third inmate was already on a high-rise balcony when Gojo arrived, seal pressed firmly to his forehead, dimensional tear opening behind him like wound in the sky. And through that tear, cursed spirits were already emerging. Not low-grade manifestations this time. Grade 1 curses, substantial. Threats that required coordinated sorcerer teams to combat. A massive wolf-like entity with too many eyes. Something that looked like living shadow given predatory form. A curse that shifted between human and insect anatomy with each movement. 6 eyes tracked their power levels, individually manageable, but together with the dimensional tear still expanding and the seal holder's life force draining. This was cascade failure in progress. GCPD is 3 minutes out, Oracle reported. But Gojo, those things. Grade 1 curses, significantly more dangerous than what attacked Arkham. Evacuate the surrounding buildings. Immediately, civilians can't see these things coming. Gojo calculated his approach while the seal in his forehead pulsed dangerously. Batman, the third seal is fully activated. I'm engaging multiple Grade 1 entities while trying to close the dimensional breach. This is going to get messy. Do what you need to do, Batman replied. We're 5 minutes from your position. 5 minutes might be too late. Then make it not be too late. Batman's voice carried absolute confidence that shouldn't have been possible, given the tactical situation. You're the honored one, remember? Act like it. The words struck differently now than they would have 2 weeks ago. Before, being the honored one meant standing alone, overwhelming every threat through individual power. Now it meant being the strongest member of a team, the one who handled impossible situations while others supported. The distinction mattered. Gojo engaged the cursed spirits. The wolf curse struck first, moving with speed that would overwhelm most sorcerers. Six eyes tracked every muscle contraction, predicting trajectory 3 moves ahead. Infinity caught its claws 3 centimeters out, and Gojo countered, with blue, attractive force pulling the curse off balance, and into his follow-up strike. Cursed energy-reinforced punch shattered its face, exorcising it in bursts of dissipating malevolence. The shadow curse attacked from behind, formless body attempting to engulf and suffocate. Gojo used red, repulsive force that scattered its mass across the balcony. While it reformed, he hit it with purple. The curse erased mid-scream. The insect-human hybrid was smarter, staying back while the dimensional tear expanded further. More curses were emerging, another grade 1 plus several low grades. The situation was deteriorating faster than he could exorcise. Time for escalation. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Smaller than Arkham. More focused, just the high-rise top floors instead of entire area. Every curse caught in the domain froze as consciousness, overloaded with infinite information. Gojo held it for 4 seconds, just long enough to incapacitate without draining reserves completely. When he released the domain, all the curses collapsed. Gojo immediately grabbed the seal holder, ripped the tag free, and destroyed it while channeling reverse curse technique to stabilize his failing life force. The dimensional tear began collapsing, but not fast enough. More curses were trying to force their way through before it sealed completely. Need help? A voice called from above. Green Lantern descended on a construct platform, ring glowing with emerald willpower. Oracle said you had dimensional tear and supernatural monsters. Thought you might appreciate backup. Can your ring hurt cursed spirits? Gojo asked urgently, while using his own spatial manipulation to accelerate the tear's closure. Constantine gave me a crash course 2 weeks ago. Said willpower constructs can interact with cursed energy if the lantern has proper perception training, which I did. So, how? Formed massive emerald hands that grabbed at the emerging curses, actually making contact and pulling them away from the tear. Yeah, looks like it works. Together, they fought the remaining entities. Gojo exorcised the dangerous ones while Hal contained the weaker curses, preventing them from escaping into Gotham proper. The dimensional tear collapsed fully after 3 minutes of coordinated effort, reality sealing the breach with finality. Silence fell over the Diamond District rooftop. 3 seal holders, Gojo reported to Oracle. 1 convinced to surrender voluntarily, 2 activated their seals. Both survivors are critically injured but stable. Dimensional breaches are closed. Approximately 15 cursed spirits exorcised. GCPD is arriving now, Oracle confirmed. Medical teams for the injured. Constantine's en route to purge residual cursed energy from the breach sites. And Batman's wrapping up at Blackgate. 34 inmates recaptured, 3 still at large, including Joker. Of course Joker escaped. That's what he did, create chaos. Watch others struggle with the consequences. Then vanish into Gotham's shadows to plan the next atrocity. You okay? Hal asked, dismissing his ring constructs. That domain technique you used. Oracle said it burns through your energy reserves fast. I'm at 60%, Gojo admitted. Could have been worse. 2 weeks ago, this engagement would have dropped me to critical. I'm learning to manage resources better. Batman's training? Batman's paranoia about unsustainable power usage. Yeah, Gojo looked across Gotham's skyline. 6 eyes tracking the city's cursed energy density. It was growing, slowly but measurably, fed by ambient fear and despair. Kinjaka's prediction was proving accurate. Gotham was becoming breeding ground for cursed spirits even without active dimensional breaches. Hal, this is going to get worse before it gets better. More curses will manifest as Gotham's negative emotions accumulate. We need systematic approach to managing supernatural threats from my reality, which is why Dr. Fate, Constantine, and Zatanna are developing detection, networks, and response protocols. Hal's ring pulsed as he scanned the area, and why you're training League members in cursed energy perception. We're adapting, Gojo. It's what heroes do. They descended to street level as GCPD secured the area. Commissioner Gordon arrived in person, overseeing the medical evacuation of the seal holders and containment of the exorcised curse remains. Constantine's protocols required proper disposal of curse residue to prevent reanimation. Mr. Satoru, Gordon greeted with tired professionalism. Once again, Gotham owes you. Though I'm getting concerned about how often we need interdimensional refugees to save the city. Consider it rent for the accommodations, Gojo replied. Though maybe improved cursed object security would help. Joker weaponizing Kinjaka's seals shouldn't have been possible if they'd been properly destroyed. Gordon's expression tightened. Batman said the same thing, rather more forcefully. I've already ordered review of evidence protocols for supernatural materials. Won't happen again. It will, Gojo said, not unkindly. Because Jokers survived this long by being unpredictably brilliant. He'll find another vulnerability, exploit another oversight, create another disaster. That's who he is. Optimistic, Gordon muttered. Realistic, Gojo corrected. In my world, we have curse users who've operated for centuries through careful planning and psychological manipulation. They can't be beaten through force alone. You need to outthink them. Predict their strategies, stay 3 moves ahead. Joker's the same type of threat, just without the supernatural powers. Which somehow makes him worse, Gordon observed. Ordinary human who causes extraordinary damage through sheer malevolent creativity. Batman's been chasing him for years without permanent solution. Because permanent solution means killing him. And Batman won't cross that line. Gojo watched ambulances, loading the injured seal holders. The Court of Owls tried arguing that I should execute threats like Joker, that my power justified, bypassing judicial process for greater good. What did you tell them? That power without restraint is tyranny, regardless of intentions. That becoming executioner makes me the threat. I'm fighting. Gojo met Gordon's eyes. But I understand the temptation. Watching Joker escape again, knowing he'll kill more people, recognizing that I could end him permanently in seconds. It's hard choosing. Principle over expedience. But you choose it anyway, Gordon said. Like Batman does. Like Superman does. Because heroes maintain principles even when it's harder. Even when the cost seems unbearable. He extended his hand. Thank you for that. Gotham needs examples of people with godlike power choosing restraint. God knows the alternatives are terrifying. As Gordon returned to his officers, Batman's Batmobile pulled up. The detective emerged, cowled down to reveal Bruce Wayne's calculating expression. Joker's gone, Bruce stated without preamble. Disappeared into the Narrow's underground networks. We'll find him, but it'll take time. He engineered this entire situation, Gojo said. The breakout was just stage setting. His real goal was weaponizing the seal tags, testing whether I'd prioritize saving criminals over preventing dimensional catastrophe. Seeing if he could make me choose who lived and died. Classic Joker methodology. Create moral dilemma with no clean solution. Watch how heroes respond under pressure. Use their choices to justify his worldview that morality is arbitrary construct. Bruce's jaw tightened fractionally. He wanted you to fail, to prove that even the honored one becomes monster when forced to choose between saving everyone and saving anyone. But I didn't fail. Gojo realized. Saved 2 of the 3 seal holders. Closed all 3-dimensional breaches. Exorcised the curses, prevented cascade failure. Not perfect outcome, but successful despite his interference. Which will infuriate him, Bruce said with something approaching satisfaction. Joker's philosophy requires proving that everyone breaks eventually. That sufficient pressure transforms heroes into villains. You demonstrating restraint plus competence undermines his fundamental beliefs. He'll try again, escalate the stakes, push harder. Let him, Gojo said, surprising himself with the confidence. 2 weeks ago, I would have handled this situation alone and probably burned myself out, trying to save everyone simultaneously. Tonight, I coordinated with Oracle, trusted the Bat family to handle Blackgate, worked with Green Lantern to close the final breach. Team approach worked better than solo heroics would have. You're learning, Bruce acknowledged. Faster than most. The transition from strongest individual to effective team member usually takes months or years. You've managed it in 2 weeks because you've been deliberately training me for it. Every scenario, every tactical briefing, every coordination exercise, they all emphasize that my power works best when supporting team efforts rather than replacing them. Gojo looked at Gotham's Skyline 6, eyes tracking the cursed energy patterns spreading through the city like infection, which is good because the threats keep escalating. Joker weaponizing cursed objects is just the beginning. Kenjaku's warning about curse users following his pathway means worse is coming. Then we'll prepare for worse. Bruce pulled up a tactical display on his wrist computer. Constantine and Dr. Fate have made progress on your seal removal. They believe the ritual will be ready in 1 week. Once that's handled, you'll be free of the dimensional bridge, risk, and can operate at full capacity without containment restrictions. And after that, you're full Auxiliary Justice League member with Gotham as primary operational area. You'll continue working with the Bat family while coordinating with League for major threats. You'll train new heroes in cursed energy perception and combat methodology. You'll help establish protocols for interdimensional incursions. Bruce met his eyes directly. You'll be part of the team that keeps both realities safe from threats neither universe was prepared to face. The weight of that responsibility settled across Gojo's shoulders, different from the burden he'd carried in his own world, where being the strongest meant standing alone against impossible odds. This was collaborative weight, shared across multiple heroes with complementary skills and coordinated purpose. Somehow, it felt lighter despite being objectively heavier. I can do that, Gojo said. I know. Bruce almost smiled, brief expression that vanished as quickly as it appeared. You've already proven it. Tonight was your operational exam. You passed. As they returned to the Batmobile for transit back to the cave, Gojo's calm crackled with Oracle's voice. Gojo, Constantine wants you to know that the residual cursed energy from tonight's breaches has stabilized. He's established containment around the sites and will monitor for 24 hours. But initial analysis suggests no ongoing dimensional instability. Good news, Gojo replied. And one more thing. Oracle's tone shifted to something warmer. Everyone at the cave wanted me to tell you that you did excellent work tonight. Coordinated response, tactical adaptation, restraint under pressure. The Bat family's proud to work with you. The words hit unexpectedly hard. In his own world, Gojo had been respected, feared, sometimes resented for his overwhelming power. But pride from teammates? That was new. Tell them I'm proud to work with them too, Gojo said quietly. As the Batmobile raced through Gotham streets toward Wayne Manor, 6 eyes tracked the city's cursed energy density. It was growing, slowly but inexorably, fed by generations of accumulated fear and despair. More curses would manifest. More threats would emerge. Kenjaku's machinations had permanently altered this reality's supernatural landscape. But Gotham had weathered impossible threats before: alien invasions, demon lords, reality warpers, gods among men who'd gone mad with power. The city survived because its heroes adapted, coordinated, and refused to break regardless of pressure. Now those heroes included an interdimensional sorcerer who'd learned that being the strongest meant nothing without the restraint, judgment, and teamwork to wield that strength responsibly. The Honored One had found his place among Gotham's shadows, and the darkness had learned what happened when infinite power met immovable principle. The seal removal ritual took place 7 days later in the House of Mystery, a sentient magical structure that existed partially outside conventional reality, perfect for conducting dangerous dimensional surgery without risking Gotham if something went catastrophically wrong. Gojo stood in the house's central chamber, surrounded by Constantine, Zatanna, Dr. Fate, and Batman. The room itself washed with architectural awareness, walls shifting slightly to optimize the ritual space. 6 eyes perceived the house's consciousness as alien but benevolent, curious about the foreign sorcerer about to undergo experimental curse removal. Right then, Constantine said, lighting what was probably his 20th cigarette of the day. Quick review before we start cutting supernatural parasites out of your soul. The seal Kenjaku planted is converting your cursed energy into dimensional Bridge material at approximately 0.03% per hour. Sustainable indefinitely, but constantly weakening the barriers between realities. We need to remove it without killing you, destroying your power, or ripping a permanent gateway through your chest. Simple, really. Your reassurances need work, Gojo muttered. I don't do reassurance, mate. I do brutal honesty followed by moderate success. Rates. Constantine gestured at the ritual. Circle carved into the houses. Floor. Complex symbols combining. Jujitsu binding techniques. With DC's magical traditions. Dr. Fate's providing the dimensional anchoring. Zatanna's handling the curse extraction. I'm managing the bleed-off so excess energy doesn't explode everything. And Batman's here in case we all die and someone needs to explain to the League. What went wrong? Comforting. It should work, Zatanna said more gently, her backwards speech magic already glowing around her hands. We've spent 2 weeks analyzing the seal structure, consulting with every magical expert available. Dr. Fate confirmed the approach. Through the Lords of Order. This is as safe as curse removal gets. Dr. Fate spoke with the dual-toned voice of Nabu, the ancient entity inhabiting the helmet. The seal is parasitic but not malevolent. It was designed for specific function rather than torture. Removal is dangerous but feasible. You will survive, Gojo Satoru. The question is whether your power survives intact. My power is part of who I am, Gojo said. If removing the seal means losing Limitless or Six Eyes, I'd rather keep the seal and manage the dimensional risk. Won't come to that, Constantine assured him. Probably. 90% sure. Maybe 85. At Batman's sharp look, he sighed. Look, magical surgery is never guaranteed. But we're good at this. The house is cooperating. And you've got enough. Cursed energy reserves that losing. A bit during extraction won't cripple you permanently. Trust the process. I trust you, Gojo corrected. All of you. You've kept me alive for 2 weeks while developing this ritual. Coordinated League response to cursed spirit threats. And trained Gotham's heroes to perceive supernatural dangers from my reality. If anyone can remove this seal safely, it's this team. The confidence wasn't forced. Over the past 2 weeks, Gojo had worked closely with Constantine on cursed energy theory, with Zatanna on magical adaptation, with Dr. Fate on dimensional mechanics. He'd watched them struggle with concepts foreign to DC's magical framework, then innovate solutions that combined both realities' supernatural principles. They'd earned his trust through competence and genuine care for his survival. All right then, Constantine said, stubbing out his cigarette. Into the circle. This is going to hurt like 7 hells, just warning you. Gojo stepped into the ritual circle's center. The symbols flared to life immediately, responding to his cursed energy signature. The house's walls drew closer, creating more intimate space. Dr. Fate began channeling Lords of Order magic, golden light forming a sphere around the circle. Zatanna's backward speech accelerated, words of power reshaping reality's local rules. Constantine pulled out a ceremonial knife. That 6 eyes registered as saturated with sacrificial magic, not blood sacrifice, but concepts and memories willingly given up to power the ritual. He'd probably traded away a few happy childhood memories for the blade's current charge. Classic Constantine, sacrificing pieces of himself so others didn't have to. This is the part where it gets unpleasant, Constantine warned, then drove the knife into the air 3 inches from Gojo's forehead. Reality screamed. The blade didn't pierce flesh, it pierced the seal itself, cutting through the binding curse's structure at a level beyond physical. Gojo felt the impact in his soul, agony radiating through his entire cursed energy system as the seal fought against removal. It had been integrated into his power for 2 weeks. Parasitic but stable, and extraction meant ripping it out by the roots. Tkark's Esrik Nidnib, Zatanna chanted, backward speech forcing the seal to separate from Gojo's native cursed energy. Each syllable pulled another connection loose. Another thread of Kinjaku's, binding curse torn away from where it had woven into his soul. Dr. Fate's golden light intensified, creating dimensional anchors that prevented the seal from opening additional rifts during extraction. Every severed connection tried to spawn a new tier, and Fate was containing them all simultaneously through sheer divine entity-level power. Constantine channeled the excess energy, pulling the seals dimensional bridge material through the ritual circle and into containment vessels he'd prepared. The glass jars filled with swirling black-purple energy that writhed like living shadow. Each jar represented a potential dimensional catastrophe being safely bottled. The pain escalated beyond anything Gojo had experienced. Not physical damage, his body was untouched, but soul-deep agony as fundamental. Aspects of his being were surgically separated from foreign curse that had parasitically integrated with his power. Six Eyes showed him the process in horrible detail. Each cursed energy pathway being purged, each dimensional microtier being sealed, each remnant of Kenjaku's binding being methodically destroyed. It took 17 minutes. When Constantine finally pulled the ritual knife away, the seal came with it, manifesting as a writhing mass of dark energy impaled on the blade's edge. He dropped it into a prepared containment jar, sealed it with blood magic, and placed a ward so complex even Six Eyes couldn't fully parse all the layers. Done. Constantine gasped, clearly exhausted. Seal's out. You're clean. Gojo collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Six Eyes scanned his cursed energy system. The seal was gone. Completely removed, no parasitic remnants. His power flowed freely again without the constant drain, without the dimensional bridge conversion. He was whole, and his energy reserves were singing. Without the seal's constant siphoning, his cursed energy was regenerating at full capacity. Domain expansion was no longer a risky technique that left him vulnerable. It was back to being his trump card, available whenever situations demanded overwhelming force. How do you feel? Zatanna asked, dismissing her magic. Free, Gojo replied, testing his techniques. Infinity activated perfectly. Blue and red responded instantly. Six Eyes operated at full resolution without degradation. Like I can breathe properly for the first time since arriving in this reality. The seal was a constant weight I didn't fully recognize until it was gone. Dr. Fate's golden sphere dissipated. The dimensional barriers have stabilized. No residual weaknesses from the seal's removal. You are no longer a bridge between realities, Gojo Satoru. Thank bloody hell for that, Constantine muttered, already lighting another cigarette. Now we just need to figure out what to do with this thing. He gestured at the jar, containing the extracted seal. Can't destroy it. Might trigger cascade failure. Can't keep it here. House of Mystery attracts enough trouble without hosting dimensional bridge artifacts. Can't give it to GCPD. They already lost Kenjaku's seals to Joker. Wayne Manor's vault, Batman said immediately. Most secure location in Gotham. Temperature controlled, magically warded, under constant surveillance. If anyone attempts theft, they'll face both technological and supernatural defenses. And you trust yourself with something this dangerous? Constantine asked pointedly. No, which is why I'll have Oracle, Alfred, and the Bat family maintain independent monitoring protocols. The moment I show signs of being compromised, they have standing orders to neutralize me and secure the vault. Batman's expression was typically unreadable. Paranoia about my own potential. Corruption is precisely why I'm the right person to guard artifacts that could destroy reality. Constantine laughed, genuine amusement cutting through exhaustion. You're completely mad, but I respect the self-awareness. Fine, the seal goes to Wayne's vault. But if this goes pear-shaped and Gotham becomes permanent dimensional rift, I'm telling everyone it was your idea. As they prepared to leave the House of Mystery, Gojo felt the weight of the past 2 weeks lifting. The seal was gone. Kenjaku remained imprisoned under multiple redundant containment systems. The cursed spirits from the Arkham invasion had been exorcised or sealed. Gotham's heroes were trained in cursed energy perception and combat basics. The immediate crisis had been managed. But Six Eyes still tracked Gotham's growing cursed energy density. More spirits would manifest. More curse users might follow Kenjaku's pathway. The dimensional barriers were stabilized but permanently scarred by the invasion. The threats weren't eliminated, just postponed. What are you thinking? Batman asked as they exited into Gotham's perpetual twilight. That we bought time but didn't solve the underlying problem, Gojo admitted. Gotham's ambient cursed energy will keep generating spirits. Eventually, we'll be dealing with regular manifestations rather than occasional invasions. This city's becoming a permanent supernatural combat zone. Gotham's always been a combat zone, Batman replied. We've just added a new category of threat to the list. The city survived the Court of Owls for centuries, survived countless supervillain attacks, survived my mistakes and failures. It'll survive cursed spirits too. Because its heroes adapt. Because its heroes refuse to break. Batman's cape billowed as they walked through the city streets. Joker tried to break you during the Blackgate incident. Kinjaku tried to break you by turning your power against Gotham. The court tried to break your principles through logical arguments for killing. You faced 3 separate attempts at corruption in 2 weeks. Gojo, you're still standing. We're still standing, Gojo corrected. I survived because Oracle coordinated responses. Because the Bat family ran interference against impossible threats. Because Constantine and his team developed the seal removal ritual. Because you taught me that being strongest doesn't mean working alone. He looked at Gotham's skyline, the city that had tested him, corrupted others, and somehow failed to break either him or its defenders. This city tries to destroy everyone who tries to save it. But it hasn't destroyed you. Despite years of fighting the same battles with the same villains escaping again and again. Why? Batman was silent for a moment, considering. Then, because saving Gotham isn't about winning permanently. It's about showing up every night regardless of the cost. Maintaining principles when they're hardest to maintain. Proving that hope can survive even in darkness this deep. The criminals keep escaping. The corruption keeps spreading. The city keeps breaking anyone who loves it. But every night we go out anyway. We prove that Gotham's darkness isn't inevitable. That's the real victory. Not eliminating crime, but refusing to let crime eliminate compassion. The words resonated deeper than Batman probably intended. In his own world, Gojo had fought curses believing that eliminating supernatural threats would protect people. He'd been the strongest, the final defense, the one who could solve problems through overwhelming power. But Jujutsu Society's darkness persisted, despite his strength, because power alone couldn't address systemic corruption, institutional failures, or human cruelty. Gotham was teaching him that true heroism wasn't about being strong enough to defeat every threat. It was about being resilient, enough to keep fighting when victory remained perpetually incomplete. They returned to the Batcave to find the family assembled: Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, Robin, with Oracle's presence through multiple screens. Alfred had prepared celebratory tea and small sandwiches, because apparently successful curse removal warranted refreshments. The seal's gone, Nightwing asked immediately. Completely removed, Gojo confirmed. I'm no longer a dimensional bridge. Full power restored without parasitic drain. Good, Red Hood said. Because we've got a situation developing that needs someone operating at full capacity. Joker's been quiet since the Blackgate breakout, which means he's planning something worse. And Three-Face has been making moves in the Narrows that suggest coordination with someone who understands cursed energy. Three-Face, Gojo repeated. Harvey Dent, Batman explained. Former district attorney, became Two-Face after half his face was scarred. Makes decisions based on coin flips. Recently exposed to a cursed spirit during the Arkham invasion that apparently convinced a third personality to manifest. The scarred side, the normal side, and now a cursed side influenced by supernatural exposure. He's more dangerous and less predictable than before. A cursed spirit corrupted someone psychologically. Gojo felt horror settle in his gut. That's not supposed to be possible in a reality without native cursed energy. The spirits can kill people physically, but mental corruption requires prolonged exposure to cursed energy environments. Gotham's cursed energy density is increasing faster than projected, Oracle reported, pulling up atmospheric analysis. What started as trace amounts 2 weeks ago has grown to measurable concentrations. In high crime areas, the Narrows, Crime Alley, parts of the East End there, approaching cursed energy, levels comparable to your world's contaminated zones. The implications crystallized. Gotham wasn't just manifesting cursed spirits anymore. It was becoming a cursed environment, where prolonged exposure could psychologically damage residents, where ambient cursed energy might corrupt people into curse users, where the distinction between DC's natural darkness and his realities, supernatural malevolence, would blur into catastrophic synthesis. How long before this becomes irreversible? Gojo asked. Unknown, Oracle admitted. We're in uncharted territory, reality. Crossover contamination. With no historical precedent. Constantine thinks we have months before permanent transformation. Dr. Fate thinks we have years. Zatanna honestly doesn't know. Then we have to reduce Gotham's ambient cursed energy before it reaches critical density, Gojo concluded, which means not just exorcising manifested spirits, but addressing the root cause, the concentrated fear and despair that generates cursed energy. In the first place, you're talking about fixing Gotham's fundamental dysfunction, Batman said quietly. Generations of corruption, systemic poverty, institutional failure. Even with unlimited resources and perfect coordination, that's decades of work. Then we start now. Gojo met Bruce's eyes. You've been fighting this city's darkness alone for how long? Years? A decade? You've prevented it from getting worse. Saved countless lives, inspired other heroes to join the fight. But you've always known you couldn't fix Gotham alone. Maybe that's why I'm here. Not to replace you or the Bat family, but to add enough power to the coalition that we can finally start making lasting progress. One interdimensional sorcerer won't solve Gotham's problems. Robin interjected, though his tone suggested he wanted to be proven wrong. No, Gojo agreed. But one sorcerer plus the Bat family plus the Justice League plus GCPD plus every hero operating in this city? That coalition might actually accomplish something permanent. Not eliminate crime, Batman's. Right, that victory isn't about perfect solutions, but reduce the ambient suffering enough that Gotham stops generating cursed energy at catastrophic levels. That's a tall order, Nightwing said. We've been trying to improve Gotham for years with marginal results. Because you've been fighting conventional crime with conventional methods while the city's supernatural corruption goes unaddressed. Gojo countered. The Court of Owls operated in shadows for 3 centuries, slowly poisoning Gotham's institutions. Arkham Asylum is built on ground so saturated with trauma that it probably generates cursed energy naturally. The city's architecture is designed to create shadows where fear accumulates. You've been treating symptoms while the disease spreads unchecked. And you can cure the disease? Red Hood's skepticism was heavy. I can treat one aspect of it, the cursed energy contamination. With time, training, and coordination. Gojo pulled up a holographic map of Gotham on the back computer. 6 eyes highlighting the highest cursed energy concentrations. These areas need spiritual cleansing, systematic exorcism of ambient cursed energy before it manifests into spirits. It's labor-intensive, requires constant maintenance, and won't solve the social problems generating the negativity. But it'll prevent supernatural escalation while you work on the conventional issues. Batman studied the map with analytical intensity. You're proposing long-term presence in Gotham. Permanent assignment rather than temporary crisis response. I'm proposing making this city my home, Gojo said. If you'll have me. My own world has other sorcerers who can handle its curses. Gotham doesn't have anyone trained for supernatural threats from my reality. I can be useful here. Maybe make lasting difference in a way I couldn't back home. The Bat family exchanged glances, silent. Communication perfected. Through years of coordination. Finally, Batman spoke. Alfred, prepare the guest wing as permanent residents. Oracle, add Gojo to active Bat family roster with full operational clearance. Nightwing, Robin, coordinate training schedule for advanced cursed energy techniques. Batgirl, work with Oracle on curse detection network expansion. Red Hood, Batman paused at Jason's expectant expression. Try not to shoot our new teammate. No promises, Red Hood muttered, but his tone carried more warmth than the words suggested. Welcome to the family, Nightwing said, extending his hand. Officially this time. No probation, no provisional status. You're one of us. Gojo shook his hand, then Batgirl's, then Robin's. Red Hood just nodded, apparently his version of warm acceptance. Alfred appeared with fresh tea, somehow having anticipated the moment would call for celebration. Mr. Satoru, the butler said with genuine warmth, it will be a pleasure having you as a permanent resident. I trust you'll enjoy the accommodations. And perhaps, if you have time, you might share some of those fascinating techniques from your world. I've always been curious about advanced spatial manipulation. Alfred, you can't learn jujitsu sorcery, Batman said. With respect, Master Bruce. I wasn't asking permission. Alfred's smile was perfectly polite and completely unyielding. As the family dispersed to their various responsibilities, Batman pulled Gojo aside. One more thing, Bruce said quietly. Kinjaka warned that curse users would follow his pathway eventually. That your presence here proved dimensional crossing was possible, which means others will attempt it. He was right about everything else. The cursed energy contamination, Gotham's increasing supernatural vulnerability, the seal's parasitic function. He'll probably be right about this too. I know, Gojo acknowledged. Some of the worst curse users from my reality, people who've orchestrated massacres, weaponized cursed spirits against civilians, spent centuries refining their cruelty. If they reach DC, if they start operating with your world's power structures and resources, then we'll face them together, Batman finished. With full League support, coordinated tactical response, and insider knowledge from someone who's fought them before. You're not alone anymore. Gojo, whatever comes through that dimensional pathway, Gotham's heroes will be ready. The confidence should have seemed arrogant. Gotham's heroes, preparing to face supernatural threats they barely understood. But Gojo had watched them adapt over 2 weeks from complete ignorance to functional competence. Had seen Batman develop curse detection technology and Oracle coordinate responses to invisible enemies. Had witnessed Nightwing survive special grade curses through pure tactical brilliance. And the Bat family run interference against impossible odds. If curse users did follow Kinjaka's pathway, they'd find a prepared defense rather than vulnerable targets. I should check the cursed energy concentrations in the Narrows, Gojo said, pulling up the atmospheric data. Three-Face operating with supernatural influence is concerning. If he's the first Gotham criminal to actually weaponize cursed energy rather than just being affected by it. Tomorrow, Batman said firmly. You just underwent experimental curse removal surgery. Your reserves are restored, but your body needs rest. The Narrows will still be problematic in 12 hours. That's surprisingly reasonable coming from someone who regularly patrols on broken ribs. Alfred threatened to hide my cowl if I let you burn yourself out immediately. After seal removal, Batman admitted. And I'm not arguing with Alfred about medical protocols. No one wins those arguments. As Gojo headed to his permanent quarters in Wayne Manor's guest wing, Six Eyes tracked Gotham's nightscape through the windows. The city sprawled before him, broken, corrupted, saturated with centuries of accumulated darkness. It had defeated countless heroes who tried to save it, corrupted idealists into cynics, and turned hope into another casualty of its endless violence. But it hadn't broken Batman, hadn't broken the Bat family, hadn't broken the stubborn coalition of heroes who showed up every night regardless of the cost, who maintained principles when expedience tempted, who proved that compassion could survive even in darkness this deep. Gojo Satoru, the honored one, strongest jujitsu sorcerer alive, had found his place among them, not as the strongest standing alone, as family standing together. Gotham's cursed energy would continue growing. More spirits would manifest. Curse users might eventually follow Kinjaka's pathway. The threats would escalate, because that's what happened in cities, built on foundations of fear and despair. But the city's heroes would adapt, coordinate, and refuse to break, because that's what heroes did. That's what family did. And somewhere in the space between dimensions, reality remembered when infinite power met immovable principle, when the honored one learned restraint, when Gotham's shadows welcomed their newest defender. Legends were born. Gotham City changed in subtle ways after Gojo Satoru's arrival. Not the dramatic transformation idealists dreamed of. Crime didn't vanish. Corruption didn't dissolve. And Arkham's revolving door continued spinning. But the city's supernatural landscape shifted fundamentally. Cursed energy concentrations stabilized as Gojo implemented systematic spiritual cleansing in Gotham's darkest neighborhoods. Ambient spirits were exorcised before they could become aggressive. The dimensional barriers, though permanently scarred, held firm under Constantine's monitoring. 3 months after the seal removal, Harvey Dent's Three-Face persona was contained through combined effort. Gojo handled the cursed corruption while Batman addressed the psychological damage. Zatanna purged the spiritual contamination, while GCPD secured proper psychiatric treatment. One threat among hundreds, but they'd saved him without killing him, proven that even supernatural corruption could be treated rather than eliminated. 6 months in, the Bat family's cursed energy perception had advanced enough that Nightwing could independently handle Grade 3 curses. Batgirl coordinated response teams with Oracle for larger manifestations. And even Red Hood grudgingly admitted the training had saved his life twice. Robin remained skeptical but competent. A year after arrival, Kinjaka's prediction came true. A curse user from Japan followed the dimensional pathway, ancient practitioner who'd heard whispers about a reality without Jujitsu Society's oversight, a world where curses could be weaponized freely. They arrived expecting easy conquest and found coordinated Justice League response: Gojo, Batman, Wonder Woman, Constantine, and Zatanna, waiting with containment protocols refined through 12 months of preparation. The curse user was neutralized in 17 minutes. Contained, studied, eventually returned to their reality with the pathway sealed behind them. The dimensional barriers weren't impenetrable, but they were monitored, defended, protected by heroes who'd learned from Kinjaka's invasion. Gotham endured, as it always had, as it always would. But now its darkness faced a new variable. Someone powerful enough to stand against supernatural threats, disciplined enough to maintain restraint, and integrated enough into the city's heroic community to coordinate rather than dictate. The Honored One had learned what Batman had known for years, that saving Gotham wasn't about winning perfectly. It was about showing up, maintaining principles, and proving that hope could survive even in the deepest shadows. Every night, as Gotham's defenders took to the streets, Gojo Satoru joined them, not as the strongest standing alone, but as family standing together. Six Eyes watching for cursed manifestations. Infinity protecting teammates who'd become his second family. Unlimited Void held in reserve for when overwhelming force became necessary, which it sometimes did. Because this was Gotham, and perfection remained perpetually elusive. Joker had tried to break him. Kinjaku had tried to corrupt him. The court had tried to recruit him. All had failed because power, without principle, was just destruction, waiting for direction. And Gojo Satoru had learned from the best, from Batman's strategic paranoia, from Wonder Woman's warrior discipline, from Superman's essential hope, from Constantine's cynical resilience, from the Bat family's stubborn refusal to abandon a city that tried to consume everyone who loved it. The darkness remained. The threats would escalate. More curse users might attempt the crossing. Gotham's fundamental dysfunction wouldn't be solved in a generation or 10. But hope shone brightest in the darkest night. And in Gotham's eternal shadows, one truth became legend.